Hello and welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland show. My name is Renata von Charner. I'm the founder and president of the Charles River Conservancy. And today I plan to give you an overview of what the Conservancy does. This organization that was started in 2000 and that is doing work on the urban Charles. And the mission statement of the organization is how can we make this amazing environment that we all have here and that we enjoy every day, this light, this water, the wind, how can we make good use of that environment? And so the mission statement of the Conservancy is the following. The Charles River Conservancy is dedicated to the stewardship, renewal and enhancement of the parklands along the urban Charles River. The Conservancy promotes the active use and vitality of the parklands, increases recreational opportunities, and works to ensure the beauty and integrity of this extraordinary public resource. We are indeed so lucky to have this public resource. Can you imagine Cambridge and Boston without the Charles River? But what part of the Charles River are we talking about? The part that the Conservancy is working on is really the urban part that is circled in red here. It's the first 10 miles of this 80-mile long river, but of course everything along this river is important for us here in Cambridge and the urban Charles because the water flows down. And so the work of the Charles River Watershed Association is so important because they care for the entire watershed and for the entire 80 miles of the river. So this is the area that we focus on, the area from the Parklands, from the Boston Harbor to the Watertown Dam, the area that originally was tidal until 1910 when they built the dam at the Museum of Science. And it's the urban area with about 300,000 people living and about 400,000 people working within easy walking distance of the urban Charles. So what is the mission of the Charles River Conservancy? It's to make the parklands more active, more attractive and more accessible. What does that mean? It means being able to jump in. This is a picture from our city splash this summer. We have now had city splashes several summers and people sign up. But in fact, there are long wait lists, and when we have a city splash this summer, if you really want to swim, make sure you sign up early. We also want to make the parklands more accessible. And one effort to do that is to allow to bicycle along the river without having to fight the traffic. We're looking at the Anderson Memorial Bridge on the Boston shore, and we are proposing to create the underpass, and I will be talking more about that. And then we want to make the parklands bigger. This is the area underneath the ramp that leads to the Zakem Bridge in North Point Park. That was just a toxic waste site, an industrial site. It was next to the Cambridge trash transfer, and that area we converted into a skate park, a 40,000 square foot skate park, and that is opening day where 2,000 skaters joined us. So that's what the Conservancy does, and we also make it possible for volunteers to participate in that effort. Every year we have 2,000 volunteers, and that adds up to about 25,000 since the beginning. And corporations come, schools come, individuals come, and so about 50 events a year and some come back year after year, and it's a wonderful way to work. Of course, you also have seen this, are seeing this program. We do a lot of programs, and we also want to make sure that the Boston Globe and other media know about our work. So that in a nutshell is what the Charles River Conservancy does. We are still a small organization, but we are very dedicated to making those urban parklands a really attractive area. And you might have recently seen in the Globe, Michael Ross was asking, why is the Charles River so boring? And one of the challenges we have on the Charles River is that there are roads on either side, both Storer Drive and Memorial Drive, that make it very difficult to get to the river. So you will see one of the projects we're working on, the I-90, where we hope to create new green space along the river. So let me now show you a little bit more about what the Conservancy does and some of the projects. We also do events. This is an event at Google with Tom Ashbrook on the right-hand side and authors of River Stories. So we do all kind of event and publications, and this is now a list of the projects that I will be going through in more detail. I will start with the Lynch Family Skate Park, the Swim Park, I-90 Beacon Yards, the Anderson Bridge Underpass, Herder Park and Public Theatre, and then other projects we follow and support what's happening at Magazine Beach, where Kathy Susie is doing an amazing job, the pathway renovations that DCR is doing, the Storer Drive realignment at the Longfellow Bridge to put the Storer Drive under just one arch of the Longfellow Bridge, the Lock and Dam area where the state police now is, has the potential to be an entrance area to the Esplanade, and then the new basin pedestrian bridges which would really connect that. So these are all projects we're working on, but let's start with the skate park. All the white areas are all activities that are done by the state or private developers, so I will not address all of them, but I will focus on the green and the red ones. So the skate park, here seen from the air, we see downtown, we see the Zaken Bridge, and we see the North Point Park when it's still filled with industrial buildings, and underneath there, underneath this swinging ramp, is the skate park. Here it is built, opened in November 2015, a place which is very seldom empty as you see it here. It's people of all ages come there and enjoy it for inline skating, for skateboarding, BMX bike. It's used really for all these wheeled recreational modes, even wheelchair. It's wheelchair accessible, and I have seen somebody strapped to a wheelchair using that park. And on the first anniversary, we had the Smithsonian Institution together with MIT's Lemelson Institute for Innovation have a symposium and demonstrations here. And that was a great way to celebrate the connection between the innovation and the creativity of the skate park and skateboarders as innovators in all fields. Opening day with Nancy Schoen on the left, Boston Mayor Walsh, and then Peter Lynch with his grandchildren. Just 6 weeks before the opening, Caroline Lynch, Peter Lynch's wife, died. They both had been very involved in the skate park and have very generously supported it from the very beginning. Also on opening day, we have Andy McDonald, a Newton native, who makes skateboarding look really easy. Just imagine standing on one arm, holding the skateboard on your other, then moving the skateboard back under your feet and going back into the 12-foot bowl. So that's the skate park, and it's a wonderful place that now Other things are added to it. This is a group from the Youth Enrichment Service, yes, and we started a program with them. It's called Skateboarding for Good. And these young skateboarders, they come and work with us in the Parklands doing landscaping work, and then receive skateboards and helmets and other protective gear in exchange. It's a wonderful partnership with this school program, and we're very happy with that. Also at the skate park, the city of Cambridge has offered to pay for lights, and DCR is now working to get the permits to install them. So we hope to have athletic quality lights so that the hours of the skate park can be further expanded. So obviously the skate park is something we have been working on for quite a while. It took us 15 years to build that skate park, which to me seemed like an eternity, and many sleepless nights. Are we going to do it? Can we do it? Because it's very contaminated soil. It affects Cambridge, the state of Massachusetts, even the federal government because of the ramps above it. So all the permitting, we raised $6 million, and we had received $1 million pro bono legal fee from Wilmer Hale because the legal aspects were very complicated, and we're very grateful for that help. And now it's loved and used, and I think it's a great asset to Cambridge, and we're moving on to other projects. And the next project I'm going to talk about is the swim park, only a few hundred yards upriver from the skate park. And swimming started with having people swim in the river. The last time it was legal to swim in the river was in the early 1950s, because that's when people became aware how dirty the river was. Not that it was cleaner before, but awareness started. So we started with swim races. The Charles River Swimming Club organized the first swim race in 2007, and that has happened ever since. And then we started the City Splashes, where everybody can go and swim, not just athletes who can do a 1 mile swim in less than 40 minutes. And now it's time to create a permanent swim location. And we have picked North Point after doing a feasibility study, and we're looking at the site of the future swim park that we see with a shallow area and a deeper area, and then the lawn next to it lends itself very well to enjoy the swimming area as well. So this is a very preliminary sketch that was done by Stantec, also pro bono, as a feasibility study. We're very lucky for the work they have done and for this wonderful rendering. And now we are moving into the planning more seriously. We recently did a depth study, bathymetry study, to make sure everything there are no obstacles and everything looks fine. We're going to have charrettes where the public is invited to come and give their input, to hear from future users like the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Y, or people who would like to do lap swimming early in the morning, or recreational swimmers. So these sessions will take place in February and March 2017. Moving further up the river, we're coming to the I-90 or the Beacon Yards. You see this big triangle there. You probably know it as you drive on the turnpike. Here is a close-up. It's where the turnpike used to have the toll booths, the Alston Brighton toll booths that have been removed. And now this whole area is going to be restructured and prepared for urban development. This will become a neighborhood of 100 acres, a big neighborhood, wonderful opportunities that can happen there for a commuter rail station, West Station, and for new housing and new development. So right now we have the yards on the right, and we have this viaduct which is in very bad state and which we would like to see gone. So we don't have this blockage between BU, Brookline and the river, so that would all become much more accessible. So one of the big efforts is that we're advocating to have at least a 5-acre open space between the river and this new development, because new development needs open space, and there is a chance to build new open space on the river and to have a public space for celebrations across from Magazine Beach. Can you imagine the festivals that could take place on the water there with people on both sides of the river? Then the third aspect that we are advocating is that we think ahead and of climate change. What features, what infrastructure could be built now that would make this a safe place even when the water level rises, when we have more extreme weather? What structure should be built into that? So that's a project that is headed by Mass DOT, but we're working with many advocates, bicycle advocates, pedestrian advocates, again with the Charles River Watershed Association, with the Conservation Law Foundation. A lot of groups are involved in working with Mass DOT to make that not just a transportation project, but a livable city, a new city in the middle of the city, and also a great part of the river, so that we don't have just this industrial wasteland and a narrow strip of a bike path, but greenery and a place that deserves to be on the river and that we can be proud of. So we're moving further up the river to the Anderson Bridge. You saw a glimpse of the Anderson Bridge before, and you might have experienced biking on the Dr. Paul Dudley White Path, that way that you're trying to cross the road and you have to fight the traffic. At the River Street there is not even a light or a crosswalk, nothing. Although the Anderson Bridge now has a bit of a better situation, has been restored. But we would really like to see 7 miles, and that's the yellow line there, 7 miles of uninterrupted pathway along the river. So from the Longfellow Bridge, you can go underneath the Harvard Bridge or the Mass Avenue Bridge, you can go underneath the BU Bridge, and then we need underpasses at the River Street, Western Avenue, and the Anderson Bridge. Going further upriver, there is already underpass on the Ellier Bridge, and ideally we would also like to see underpasses at the Arsenal Bridge and the North Beacon Street Bridge, so that this river really becomes easy for recreational biking and also for commuters. So this is the rendering that we presented to Mass DOT. So far the advocacy has taken us 9 years, and we just heard from the Mass Historical Commission, because this is a National Register building, that they have no objection to us creating this underpass, and now we're working on the architectural and landscaping detail of that underpass. So that has been a wonderful partnership. Over 50 groups have signed up to help. About 53 elected officials have signed on. So we are on the road to make that a reality. Moving further up the river, we come to Herder Park. And Herder Park is a wonderful place. It's kind of a hidden jewel, and it's used by many people for picnicking. A lot of first-generation Americans have big family gatherings there. And in the middle of it is the theater. And this theater has now been closed for many years because the stage has collapsed, the seating was bad. So the group called Friends of Herder Park organized. Herb Nolan and the Solomon Fund have played a key role, as has the Zicolo Family Foundation, and working with volunteers of the Conservancy. So all through 2016, the Conservancy has brought volunteers to this event, and this has been a wonderful experience working together to make this space come alive again. So what else does the Conservancy do? We have, as I mentioned, the Conservancy Volunteers, we do media and publications, and we do events. So let me tell you a little bit more about the Conservancy Volunteers. 28,000 people so far have worked with us. So that's a large number, and a lot of happy people do it, working hard, even in the snow, even in the rain, in the heat, they come back. And their labor is equivalent to 1.8 million. And every year we invite 2,000 people to join us. This map shows every yellow dot is one volunteer event with between 30 and 200 people coming to work. So you see concentration on Magazine Beach, concentration in Herder Park. So that's the area we work in. Hosting TV shows is something that I do on a regular basis, and they are all available now on YouTube, over 100 of them. I'm talking to bicyclists, to swimmers, to elected officials, to civic leaders. It's a long history. And of course there's also several programs with the author of this book, Carl Haglund. We co-published this book with MIT early on in the life of the Conservancy. Carl Haglund had worked 18 years on this, on his PhD about the river. And so we felt this is absolutely crucial to publish that important research. And if you don't have that book, go and get it. It's a wonderful book with over 500 illustrations. And it also has photograph of Peter van der Walker, who went and looked at old photographs and then took contemporary ones in the same location. For our 5th anniversary, our 10th anniversary, and our 15th anniversary, we produced a publication called River Stories. And the most recent one has writing from Tom Ashbrook, Stephen Greenblatt, Megan Marshall, David Ferry, David Gessner, Mike Dukakis, Bill Ron, Nancy Seasholes, Florence Ladd, Lisa Ketchum, Peter Howe, and Ferdy Hellweger. And then inside the book you find these watercolors by Frank Costantino of all the bridges and all the boathouses. These are posters that are also available separately. A fun project of 2016 is to work with Google's Trekker. It's a camera that is mounted in a backpack, and we filmed the whole river. And then this footage, which is a little bit like the Google Map street search that you are familiar with, was inaugurated at Google when authors of the river stories were there to present their stories, and Tom Ashbrook was the moderator. And it was a very joyous event. And also that's on YouTube, because Tom Ashbrook, he loves the river, and so of course to all these authors. Many of you might be familiar with the Sunday Parkland Games. For the last 8 years we held these games. Here they are in Cambridge near the Weeks Bridge. We also held them at North Point Park as well as in Herder Park. And what we have seen is many families love them, but there is a lack of shade along the river and it can get very hot. So that is a challenge in the summer. It's better in June and September, but during the hot summer months, this is a real challenge that we haven't quite solved yet. Riversing is something that we started in 2004 with Revels, a wonderful partnership with George Emlyn, the musical director. And if you've not been to Riversing, you don't know your river, and you need to put the autumnal equinox, which is always at the end of September, on your calendar. You see the people there singing, and then when it gets dark, the moon and the sun come down the river with Strickland playing on his saxophone, a mesmerizing, almost ballet-like experience. So that's, in a nutshell, what the Conservancy does, what we've been doing the last 17 years. And if you want to find out more about any of these projects, there are these YouTubes that talk about the skate park, the underpasses, swimming, and the various efforts along the river. But of course, we can only do that work if we have people who support us. We get about 1/3 of our funding from individuals, people like you who love the river, 1/3 of corporations who send their employees to volunteer along the river, and about 1/3 from foundations, particularly big capital projects, the Boston Foundation, the Barr Foundation, the Lynch Family Foundation, all help us. So I hope you will help the Conservancy, and here is the information how you can get hold of us. The website, the Charles, has a lot of information and how you can contact me. And thank you for watching. Thank you for taking care of your river and helping us make the river more active, attractive, and accessible. Thank you.